Hearing. I want to bring in now Arthur Hayhoe, who is Executive Director of the Florida Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, joining us from our wonderful Fox affiliate down in Tampa, Florida. Good to see you, Mr. Hayhoe.
Be here.
I also want to point out to our viewers that we are hoping to get Larry Pratt, who is Executive Director of the Gun Owners of America, from Springfield, Virginia. We're having some technical issues with him, but we obviously do want this to be a balanced debate. We're doing our best to make it that way. Mr. Hayhoe, what have you made so far of what you've heard from this hearing? Predictably passionate, moving to see Gabby Giffords. Are we getting anywhere, though, or it seems to me we're hearing the same entrenched positions we've heard on both sides?
I think you're correct. We're hearing what we've always heard before, but I think the discussion is enlarging slowly into areas that we can think more carefully about.
We heard from Wayne LaPierre, who is obviously the head of the NRA earlier, Mr. Hayhoe, who said, talking specifically about background checks, he said they should not be mandatory because homicidal maniacs, as he put it, are still going to get guns. Is that a fair point, that whatever laws you put on the books, anybody who really wants to kill is really going to get the guns that they need to do that with?
Well, I think you'll find that people that do, cause horrific crimes do get caught by background checks. And the idea you want to get rid of background checks because they're not catching these people is ludicrous.
Ludicrous in what sense? I mean, it did strike me that it's kind of like saying that we shouldn't bother with speed limits on the roads because idiots are still going to drive at 100 miles an hour. Do you see it that way, that we're just holding up our hands and saying, oh, let's not bother if we go down that road of no background checks at gun shows, or not mandatory background checks?
Well, you have no background checks at gun shows when they deal with private sellers. But, you know, we need, one thing that we need is a more comprehensive, inclusive background check that checks something besides if the person involved ever had a felony conviction. So, you know, we can go a long ways if we can expand the background check.
Now, is that the single most important change you would like to see, Mr. Hayhoe, or what else do you think needs to happen right now?
Well, we're hoping that a comprehensive background check will be at least one of the things that we'll get. But there are some other things, too. We're hoping to get these assault rifles off the street. We had an assault rifle ban in Florida momentarily, but it didn't last very long because they didn't give it a hearing, so we're looking at reintroducing it. But there are some things we need to do. We need to get these guns off the street.
All right. A lot of our viewers weighing in on this, as you can imagine. NC Vet says it enforce existing laws, do not create a burden on law-abiding citizens. It seems that law-abiding citizens are being punished for the sins of the killers. Ramoth says, talk, talk, talk. Congresspeople will vote the way their biggest donors tell them to, which means the only gun law that has a chance is universal background checks. Robert Hawkins says, build more prisons and put those that use a gun in crime in jail. What about that argument, and Wayne LaPierre has made it again today quite forcefully, that there are plenty of existing laws on the books, Mr. Hayhoe, we simply don't enforce them?
Well, that's true. A lot of laws are not enforced, but there are a lot of laws that we don't have. So, you know, you can't say that. It's the old saying, you know, we have too many gun control laws, besides gun control laws don't work. You know, if you don't have any gun control laws, they don't work. So it's the idea of getting a comprehensive approach to all aspects of this problem, and to us, at least in Florida, it's a comprehensive background check. All right.
Stand by, if you don't mind, Mr. Hayhoe. Stay with us for a moment. I just want to get to the mental health aspect of this as well. One of our readers writing in here, Marla Wilkes, saying, when are our leaders going to understand that the gun in the hand of the boy at Sandy Hook was not the problem? The boy with a gun in his hand was the problem. Let's focus on the causes instead of ideology. Obviously getting to the point there there that Adam Lanza appeared to have certain mental health issues. He was the gunman, of course, in the awful Sandy Hook massacre. So what about that? Let's bring in Dr. Bart Rossi now, psychologist, with me here in the studio. Dr. Rossi, good to see you. Thank you for being here. You know, this is, it's kind of a chicken and egg situation we often seem to get down to here. Which came first? But the mentally ill kid does not massacre 26 people at Sandy Hook unless he has a gun. So the two do go together. You can't say this is a mental health issue or it's a gun control issue. The two are inextricably linked, are they not?
Correct. It's both. But from my point of view, we need to prioritize mental health. We need to understand that psychologists today using cognitive behavioral therapy can be effective. And we need to prioritize mental health. We need to expose kids in high school and parents so that we can have make a difference, make a dent into this problem. But what bothers me is the fact that we have personality disturbances in our society. These folks have not yet gone into a psych hospital. They have not yet been arrested. So they're out there. And I think we should make it harder for these types of people to get weapons.
But then you have when you start down this road, there are very important privacy issues that you have to deal with as well.
Sure.
I mean, if I have the flu, do I have to go to the doctor? No. If I'm having suicidal thoughts, should I have to go to the doctor? Should I be rounded up and made to go and see a psychologist?
Well, your questions are good ones, but we can't have just specific questions to this problem. We're never going to have a perfect law. We're never going to solve all the problems of mentally ill or personality disturbances out there. We can't do that. However, what we can do is try to prioritize mental health, make people realize that today kids can get help. We can identify most of those shooters. There's a profile of all the shooters. We know that they're angry. It generates into rage. The rage gets into an explosive personality, and then they want to go at the world. Okay, we know this. So what can we do to prevent that? And what can we do to prevent these types of people from getting weapons that are automatic weapons or semi-automatic weapons that will kill many people? It seems like we need a balanced approach here.
Mr. Hayhoe, would you agree? Do we need a balanced approach? Is this, in your eyes, all about gun control, or would you like to see reforms to the mental health laws as well? Do you accept that that's an issue here?
Well, it can't be about gun control. In Florida, we have no gun control. As the NRA had passed their firearm preemption law, we're a state without a single gun control law at all. So the NRA can rightly say Florida is now safe for guns, and besides, gun control laws don't work.
But do you accept that there needs to be, given what we have seen in all the recent mass shootings, and we have some pictures just to remind our viewers of those involved in them. Adam Lanza in Sandy Hook, if we can put these up now. Sung Hugh Cho, Virginia Tech. James Holmes, Jared Loughner, Aurora, Colorado, and the Gabby Gifford shooting, respectively. There was a mental health issue with each of those mass killers. So it's not just about background checks or assault weapons bans. It is, would you concede, also about tackling the mental health issue in this country?
Absolutely, but what's behind the background check? If you pass the background check because you haven't had a felony conviction, what's behind that no felony conviction? All kinds of problems. So we do need more background checks. Need to be more inclusive as to a person's behavior and other problems and so on.
All right, that seems to be a very good point, Dr. Rossi, that background checks speak precisely to the mental health issue, do they not?
No, they don't.
In what sense? Surely if you're checking somebody's background, you might find out if they've had any mental health issues.
No, the problem is that in some cases it will, but in many cases, probably most cases, these folks in our society have not yet been in a psych hospital. They have not yet gone for psychotherapy, if you will. They have not yet been arrested.
So how do we, but Dr. Rossi, help me understand, how do we go about finding these people? What are we monitoring everybody? We got drones up in the sky checking anybody who's doing something weird, and then we go and round them up. I don't understand how we can. I agree that we need to, but how we can get from A to B if somebody doesn't want to go to B.
I think I can answer that question, actually. My suggestion would be, if we're going to prioritize mental health and not minimize it, we need exposure at the middle school and the high school to what we can do as psychologists to identify kids, and most of the parents know who's a problem.
So teachers and parents are key here.
They know who's alone, aloof, depressed, agitated, acting out, explosive personalities. They know that already, but they're not going for assistance. So if they don't get help, how can a psychologist give them help? So if we change our system and we make people realize what we can do today, just like with physical science, where we take a look at exercise and what we can do going forward with changing our diet and so forth. In mental health, there are many things we can do from a cognitive standpoint to make a significant difference. Are we going to do that? Are we going to take the stigma away from mental health? Or are we just going to continue down this road and avoid the whole mental health process?
All right. Mr. Hayhoe, I've got to let you go down in Tampa, but just give me a final point here. What you want to see, essentially, is background checks. That's the one thing that you believe would make a difference to the amount of gun violence in Florida and, therefore, in this country as a whole.
A background check coupled with the problem in Florida, they're so available. What good is a background check? What does the background check do when guns are so readily available everywhere?
All right, Mr. Hayhoe, who is the Executive Director of the Florida Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much indeed.